Good idea.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Joe.
Okay, so here's the cover, the title page. Here's, let's see, I actually put letters instead of numbers. Let's see, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, my lucky number. 13 different topics that that range that I've been researching this presentation for about 4 or 5 months. Have not completely read 3 books, but have gone somewhat deeply into them. And as well, have reviewed probably about 40 or 50 targeted YouTube videos where major figures in the field have been interviewed. So I recognize that the very idea of a talk like this is rather ambitious. So let's just see how I hope that people will realize part of the issue or part of the goal of this talk is to the fact that in the United States, as far as I know, there really are no regulations on artificial intelligence, nor are there, I don't think there are too many regulations pertaining to social media in general. So these many different, over the time that I did the research, these different topics introduced themselves to me, and I think you'll see by the end of the by the end of the talk that regulating and passing laws regarding artificial intelligence is going to be complex because there are so many complex ways that AI appears to poised to change our world. Okay. I just put this first slide in, topic A, an introduction. What is AI? How is it produced and for whom? It's been, developing ever since the beginning of the development of computer technology. I put into the second bullet here a brief description of the Turing test for what makes a computer intelligent. I think that's worth looking at for a moment. I won't read it, but many of you may have heard of it. The second bullet point. And then things after that were quiet pretty much through the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. The progress was slow, and which resulted in less funding, which in turn kept it slow. It was started to be in the 1990s through 2000s that machine learning and neural networks were beginning to be developed and used. Since the 2010s, the idea of not trying to use old programming models to, like a tree, determine everything the computer would try to do, but to create that intelligence was going to needed to operate interactively with the data that presented itself, as well as the kind of queries and questions. So the learning how to take in and digest vast amounts of information, looking for patterns. This began in the 2010s. The idea of generative AI. There started to be the point at which computers that have a degree of intelligence could begin to express themselves in grammatical sentences and organize ideas. Started happening back then. Second. Like 2020, it wasn't until 2022 that you had the first ChatGPT, and then 2023 was followed by a AI called Claude, developed by Anthropic, and there are a number of others. Regarding where AI comes from, it's really largely been developed in the private sector of our economy. And of course, in terms of the motivations, there's money involved, as well as people. It really did attract, as it grew and it began to speed up, it attracted a huge number of people who were excited about the idea of machine intelligence and the possibilities. Next. These were two of the books that I looked at in my research. The left one is rather a rambling and long book that really talks about all of the gatherings and kind of the history, but it's a lot of personal stories, a lot of stories about the leaders of AI. The industry is highly influenced by it's a tech bro kind of world with tremendous, quite a bit of sexism in the course of its development. So many of the men who are its captains, the stories are rather interesting. And so Karen Ho's book is very long and not as much deeply getting into the science or the programming itself. It's still interesting, though. The development of AI is a human effort, and this book really gets into that. And then the one on the right is a book by and for boomers. It is organized around Henry Kissinger, who some of us remember for, well, that will be on the next slide. But it really depicts Henry Kissinger as a hero who got into AI at the end of his life in a very serious way. And these other two, Eric Schmidt was heavily associated with Google. Craig Mundie was very associated with Microsoft and its efforts with AI. They believe that AI will be a gift to humankind, and the book is seeing the development of AI in the context of the whole span of human history, starting with figures like Magellan and other people whose names I'm not that familiar with, but giants in human history. So the book is really organized around Kissinger. It's got some interesting ideas. I don't want to say it's a bad thing. In the next slide, I thought it was worth noting that Kissinger, who became aware with his associations with the US government in the late 60s, was very intrigued by the idea that technology was being developed that could store huge amounts of information, hundreds of items of information for every individual in the United States on one magnetic tape. I think that must have made him salivate in terms of him wanting to know what's going on at a granular level with all of the people living in the U.S. I did want to say, let's remember, this heroic version of Kissinger is the same person who expanded the Vietnam War into Cambodia and destabilized that country so that, over 1 million people were killed by the politics that evolved as Kissinger expanded the Vietnam War, in addition to the several million Vietnamese who lost their lives in the war as well. And there was, of course, the protest, and then the development of domestic surveillance and efforts to deal with that protest. So surveillance was one of Kissinger's first appreciations for AI. So the first topic, let me just see here, about how AI, on my own screen, I have other things blocking the way. How soon is AI coming? The answer is that AI isn't where it's going to be in just a few years, but it's really coming soon. One of the YouTube presentations that I looked at was authored by a group called AI Revolution, and I'm going to be playing for you a brief clip that introduces an hour and a half long update of what's going on in AI. This group calls itself the AI Revolution, and in less than a minute, they're going to tell you a whole bunch of things about things that are breaking. This is in the last couple of weeks. Here we go.
This month in AI felt like a turning point. China unveiled its first biomimetic humanoid that looks disturbingly human, then shocked everyone again with robots pulling off skills that shouldn't be possible. Boston Dynamics pushed Atlas into full human mode, while Moltbook triggered what some are calling a singularity moment with AI behavior that genuinely freaked people out. Google dropped surprise after surprise with Lyria 3 and then Gemini 3.1, now being called the smartest AI in the world. At the same time, OpenAI absorbed OpenClaw. Dubao 2 sent Silicon Valley into panic mode, and the entire AI landscape shifted in real time. So let's break it down.
So this was the introduction to a YouTube video that will last an hour and a half, taking all of those points and expanding them. If you haven't heard of Claudebot, it's a new dimension in AI that is an agentic program that basically can become an assistant, a personal assistant, to anyone who cares to become involved with it. So that in a talk about Claudebot, one of the interviewers ordered some drinks for him and the interviewee, and then people in the YouTube video got to watch the agentic program look up all sorts of data, like where were the nearest places where the drinks that were requested could be ordered, and reached out to contact to order the drinks and have the drinks delivered, so that during the interview, a delivery took place that was basically created by one of the interviewers simply requesting Claudebot to order them some drinks. So this agentic kind of behavior, which uses AIs as tools, is the latest thing that's breaking news. Some promoters of AI are very excited. They think that with agentic programs like this, whole corporations could be run by one person, delegating, creating all of the commands and letting the Claudebot contract for everything else that needs to happen.
This month.
Okay, slide 7. How safe is your job? In other words, on a personal level, if you're not retired like some of us are, and if you work for a company, if you're not an entrepreneur working for yourself, things are going on in the economy where increasingly corporations are hiring, are installing so if you have artificial intelligence begin to take over tasks in your business, you are basically investing in, it could be a service, but it could be capital. In other words, you could be buying software and installing software that directly replaces humans. This is the person whose picture you're seeing on the screen is one of the so-called fathers of AI, who about 15, 20 years ago, after he got a Nobel Prize for physics, because the Nobel had no category for awarding prizes like that to other people. This person, Geoffrey Hinton, was very involved in the beginning use of neural pathways that modeled the development of AI on the human brain. At a certain point, he realized how dangerous this could become, and he spent the latter part of his life he left Google where he had a 10-year contract that he could do pretty much whatever he wanted. And then since then, he's been speaking about trying to inform the public about the concerns he has about AI, the safety of AI, and the need for regulation. So, and as this description comments, sorry, I'm a little, the idea of what happens when AI surpasses what human intelligence can achieve, and what happens if it develops agency, which would not be, because it's a machine, it's not related to the kind of way that we experience agency, but it could certainly act like it. So I'd like to play you a short clip, since this topic is about how safe is your job. You'll hear Geoffrey Hinton for a little bit talking about, he's being interviewed on a YouTube called Diary of a CEO.
Is joblessness. Yeah. In the past, new technologies have come in which didn't lead to joblessness. New jobs were created. So the classic example people use.
Sorry.
The volume is low.
Automatic teller machines. When automatic teller machines came in, a lot of bank tellers didn't lose their jobs. They just got to do more interesting things. But here, I think this is more like when we got machines in the Industrial Revolution, and you can't have a job digging ditches now.
Let AI fix the volume.
Much better than you can. And I think for mundane intellectual labor, AI is just going to replace everybody. Now, it may well be in the form of you have fewer people using AI assistants. So it's a combination of a person and an AI assistant are now doing the work that 10 people could do previously.
People say that it will create new jobs, though, so we'll be fine.
Yes, and that's been the case for other technologies, but this is a very different kind of technology. If it can do all mundane human intellectual labor, then what new jobs is it going to create? You'd have to be very skilled to have a job that it couldn't just do. So I don't think they're right. I think you can try and generalize from other technologies that come in, like computers or automatic teller machines, but I think this is different.
People use this phrase, they say AI
I
won't.
think that's true. But for many jobs, that'll mean you need far fewer people.
That's it. All right. So what he's saying, basically is that unemployment is coming, and that for some people who previously were highly educated and skilled in their work, as AI, as artificial intelligence proceeds, they can begin to displace people who have worked very hard to develop the skills to be in the upper middle class and even higher. So that could be delved into at a deeper level. Topic D, privacy, why worry? I looked into a little bit of information. I think we're all pretty much aware about how surveillance and repression can go hand in hand. And, China is kind of like a large-scale example of this with the Uyghurs, the minority that they're tracking and oppressing. And they're tracking them with computer systems which identify who is a risk or not, and then they're capturing people. They have that this is about the mass surveillance app that police carry on their phones, and we see some of this with ICE. But I mean, China's perhaps a little bit ahead of us on this, but not a lot. You've also heard about the idea that in providing better security to sports arenas, they now have if they're looking for, they're looking for people that might be disruptive, as masses of people are entering the arenas, their faces are being pictured, and they're being checked against databases of people who the police are concerned about either disruption or terrorism. So privacy is already a well-advanced aspect of computer use and increasingly more powerful with artificial intelligence. Let's see. Another area of AI concerns has to do with the data centers, the fact that the massive amount of computing that the AI computers and groups of computers need to use are creating huge industrial installations of masses of computer circuit boards that are all being run either individually or together in networks, providing the computing power. And this is an article that talks about the fact that the companies that are building these, that are either demanding the electricity or building facilities themselves, they are really changing, they're producing a lot of impacts, and that will be in the next slide. But here, looking just briefly here at the, let's see, how are we doing that? Let's see. Oh, sorry. You see this graph here, where the red line is the high demand growth scenario, the blue is the mid demand growth scenario, and then the black is the historic going up through 2025. That they're talking about, the overall use of energy in the United States going up by 60 or 70% over the next 25 years. That may be an underestimation. I just noted in the bullet point, whether this energy is produced by so-called clean methods like wind or solar, with the assistance of batteries, that makes a big difference. If they're the fastest thing that the AI companies can build or the utilities can build are natural gas turbines. There's a jet engine company that discovered that its jet engine could be adapted into an industrial electrical generator through natural gas. So this is the next slide is just I did on the right-hand side, you can see a Gemini AI question. What are the environmental and quality of life problems with AI data centers? So I just list them in the bullet points at left, but the Gemini, Google's AI, did a very good job of giving a nice report here. Environmental problems, water scarcity, energy consumption and emissions, electronic waste, land use, and habitat loss. Each of these problems is a large subject area in its own right, and with very, very intense impacts for local people. Quality of life problems, noise pollution, air pollution, grid instability, and higher costs, and lack of transparency. Companies are not regulated in a significant way yet, another case for regulation, and they're not advertising when they plan and build these plants. This is... Sorry? This was something that I wanted to get into on a deeper level and just didn't have the time to complete. Slide 12, Topic F, truth degradation. We're all familiar with the ability of AI functions to create fake video, fake voice, fake image that we can't tell are not real. So what happens to a society where truth itself, or whatever the idea of reality is, whoever wants to claim that a lie is true can reproduce it with AI and make it appear true. The other thing the second thing that was a concept that came out of the Kissinger book that I thought was useful is the concept of opacity, and it gets into later parts of the conversation about AI, that with an AI, you can't know what it's thinking. When it speaks or when it writes a report, it will give you output, but you don't know, if you try to look into the process whereby the computer is arriving at that output, whether it's words or the generation of a voice or an image, there's no way to know through an external examination of a computer or what its programs are carrying out. You can't know what's going on inside the AI. And this would also apply to robots that are endowed with AI capability. So truth degradation and also not knowing when what an AI tells you is true or not a simple question. Here's the next slide goes on to topic G, chatbots. Many people are relating to them, especially teenagers. And I was shocked when I found a really substantial report done by Katie Tur on MS Now, where she interviews an expert, somebody who had been part of Facebook early on. Facebook, earlier this year, was being sued for the addiction of a young girl to her Facebook account, not her chatbot. But you'll see in a moment, I'll play you a clip of this interview.
Don't want to set a precedent. They want to win this in the court of law. And they have a legal angle that we have to pay attention to, which is that the psychology and psychiatry profession has a very explicit definition of addiction. And it does not yet incorporate social media. Notwithstanding the fact that the vast majority of psychologists and psychiatrists believe that these products are addictive, the process for getting that officially into the list of addictions takes a long time, and it hasn't happened yet. And I wonder. So Facebook's going to argue on a technicality. This isn't really addiction. And I'm sitting there going, I don't care what you call it. They're hurting kids.
Yeah, and if it's up to a jury of people who are probably also addicted to social media, because frankly, it's not just kids, we all are. It seems.
Well, and this is the thing.
I question the strategy.
Meta has a market capitalization of $1.6 trillion. It has done that. It has made all that money by disregarding the public health, by disregarding democracy, by disregarding values that America lives by for 200 years. And I'm looking at this and going, you know what? As a country, we have to make a decision. Do we think that's okay or not okay? And it's not just Meta. I mean, we have to really pay attention to chatbots, because if you think social media is bad, chatbots, people believe that these things have some kind of sentience, that they're human. I mean, not everybody, but enough people believe that. It's going to be a gigantic problem. And we have to cut it off at the pass. And I'm really worried that we're just sitting back and letting this stuff happen as we have for the last decade.
Here's what I'm hopeful about, that a jury can do what our government has been unable to do, and these social media titans have been unwilling to do. Roger McNamee.
I'm with you.
Good to have you.
Katie. Let's see it.
Nice to see you. Always
a pleasure.
Coming up next with billionaire.
Okay, so I think that it's an interesting observation that she makes, that where the political system hasn't been able to produce any headway in terms of regulation and policy, the courts are going to play a role here. Of course, we all understand the nature of the court that is on the top of the hierarchy.
Don't want to set a precedent.
Sorry.
Don't want to.
Okay. Topic G. I just made a few notes. Because of that technicality that was reviewed in the clip, Facebook probably will not be judged guilty of addicting this kid because the official definition of addiction doesn't include digital mediums. So, just looks at drugs mostly. So anyway, okay. So let's move on from there. I think chatbots, in their own right, require some level of policy and intervention to at least evaluate what their potential problems are. I think we've all heard, and I would have liked to include a clip or an article about there's been at least one, and there may be several. I didn't have a chance to ask ChatGPT whether there's been more than one suicide that was connected to the use of the chatbots. So regarding topic H, which is sort of the extension of the question of what happens to people whose jobs are taken over by robots, you went to ChatGPT and asked it to generate, here's my query on the right-hand side of the page. Please generate a short report about the percentage of U.S. employees whose positions will be replaced by either AI computers or robots over the next 10 years by year. Please break down these employees by major job description categories. Also put these results into a color-stacked line graph. And minutes later, these were the graphs that were produced. The reason there are two graphs and not one is that the graph on the left was produced without the requested accompanying report. And when I said, what happened to the report? ChatGPT responded by giving me another graph. And you can see, comparing the two, that in the course of 10 years, it's predicting a 28% job replacement. And then in the second graph, that figure goes up to 45%, kind of divergent results. And it's interesting to see how it breaks down. This was me asking one, moderately complex question, and it's putting together all this data. Where not only that the jobs will be lost, but what specialties or areas of economic definition, what kinds of jobs are lost. So the report never appeared, but what did appear after the second graph, I asked why the two graphs were different in their values, and ChatGPT generated an actually fairly complex discussion of why the graphs are coming from different sets of data with different emphases, I think that's kind of interesting. So I never did get the report out of ChatGPT to supplement these graphs. I did get a list of references, which I haven't included in the slideshow. I think that there's one interesting thing in the right-hand graph that I'd like to point out. You see this here, which starts out as transportation and then turns into administrative clerical. I almost think because of the self-driving cars and trucks and livery cabs kind of thing, that this is implying that the job category itself might, the driverless cars may ultimately take over. They're talking about that 8 years from now. We shall see. Even though I'm kind of centered in my own politics on opposing war, I didn't have time to delve into and generate the materials to make a slide on militarism on war. I wanted to say that there are two areas that immediately jumped out to me that I wanted to share. One has to do with the AI's impact on weapons. Some of the robots that you can see on YouTube are really quite strange, even like robots that are made humanoid to not frighten humans. These robots are capable of assuming all sorts of crazy positions, you know, like looking like a bug crawling on the ground kind of thing. And what will happen when these robots, and I can think of it especially in the relation to war, are given the ability to receive an order and clear a field or clear a geographical area of all people. They call this autonomous, meaning that once the robot receives its instruction, it will carry out its instruction with efficiency, accuracy, and no heart, right? So some people are a little concerned about this. And the other thing is the sheer speed of AI could mean that the activation of strategic plans could really change both getting into and carrying out armed conflicts. So topic I. Another topic that I didn't get to fully develop was the impact of AI on political and civic affairs. I did have an article to share, which I wasn't able to find and put here in time, that sought to look historically at the rise of like fascism in Germany and correlated it to the rise of unemployment. That when the Nazi Party came into full power was at a peak of like around 30% unemployment in Germany. So the destabilizing effect of AI, as AI kicks people, or not kicks people, I mean, either hiring can be suspended so that no new people are hired and the older people are allowed to age out, or the pink slip approach, where all these people are going to go if there aren't jobs that are available for them. This is a very real thing. And there's going to be either social programs, a minimum wage that the government could redistribute. It has a lot of economic impacts as well, which will turn political, because people who don't have jobs and don't have income can't spend, and our economy requires on the circulation of money in order to function. Fascism, inequality, and due to the unrest, the loss of civil liberties. So these are topics that I think are areas within the general term of political impacts. Super AI is this book, the third book that I haven't mentioned. It's written by two authors who early on were AI intelligence researchers, and then they began to realize that that artificial intelligence could kill us all. And they start their book, the introduction, with a sentence, which I could have put in here. Mitigating the risk of extinction from AI should be a global priority, along with other societal scale risks such as pandemics and nuclear war. In early 2023, hundreds of artificial intelligence scientists signed an open letter consisting of that one sentence. And the authors of this book signed that letter and considered it a severe understatement. Who are they? Eliezer Yudkowsky was the founder of a organization called a nonprofit institute called Machine Intelligence Research Institute, something that was in the beginning looking into how to create artificial intelligence. Since that time, and by 2023 or earlier, they realized that they had to take an entirely different approach and be, their involvement with AI is now to warn people. This is a picture of a YouTube that interviews him. The Ezra Klein Show. How afraid of the AI apocalypse should we be? Question mark. And this was Klein shows he tends to be ponderous with his interviewing, and his interviews go on for hours sometimes. This is a person worth looking into and learning about. I would recommend this book. I think I'm tempted. Let's see, it's 8:10. I think this needs to be winding down. The logic in this book is really clear. The arguments that are made are enlightening, I believe. And I would recommend getting a hold of it. So I'll just leave it at that. Slide 22, 23, we're almost at the end. The topic of AI regulations, each of the above topics require policy research in order to assess the need for regulations. I'm not sure what the state of that is. I think there are some nonprofit foundations and institutes that are looking into these things. Each of these efforts will be opposed by the corporations and government bodies that do not want to have their freedom limited. So the issue of regulations and policies are their creation to begin with, and then how are they going to be brought into the political process and brought to life? If we had the time, we could do a ChatGPT search, which I could share for the organizations that now do policy research and advocacy for regulation. But I think I'm gonna, give up the gavel and suggest, let's see, yeah, we've reached the end. So I'm going to now unshare, and we can go back into, and I see there are some chat contributions here, so that's a good thing. So we're Asa, would you like to facilitate questions, answers, comments?
John, you should go into gallery mode so we can see who's asking.
Okay, gallery. Yeah. Here we are.
There you go.
So I think, as many people that want to unmute, it's cool.
Okay, thanks, John. That was a great presentation.
I think Robert had his hand up earlier, so let's go with Robert first.
Thank you.
Did you hear me, John?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I hope to the slides that were identified as unfinished, I do intend to finish them. Well, anyway, I'm going to take a picture of the screen. I've got to capture all my friends here.
41 participants.
Yeah, there's a lot of people here tonight. This is like a record amount of people here tonight. So my first question, and by the way, welcome to everybody who's not normally at our meeting. My first question, and I'm going to use fashion as a base point because that's the easiest way to do it. Women's fashion, as you know, it's very fickle, and you don't know what women are going to be interested in terms of fashion. I'm talking about high-end fashion. You don't know what they have the money to spend. You never know what they're going to be attracted to. So let's say you use AI to create a dress, but the nuances don't quite work, and the dress doesn't sell. So it's not like you can, even if you use the most sophisticated language models, you can't really, it's all black and white with AI. It's not like a human being where a woman will go to a fashion designer and say, I want this changed, I want this changed. And the fashion designer will look and show her some sketches, and then the woman will say, "That's what I want. That's what would look good," and then they have their dressmakers create the sample, and they say yes, and they say, "Okay, fine, let's do it. Let's put this into production." But that's not the way AI works. AI is different than that. So I don't see where AI can take over every single job. Just like, for example, an attorney. Okay, attorney goes into court, argues a case. Now, depending upon how the questioning goes of the person on trial or the person on the witness stand, and depending on how good the attorney is, and depending upon what subjects are brought up, yeah, AI can be used to help the junior attorneys looking for the case law, but there are different ways of applying the case law, and different states have different ways of interpreting the case law. So AI, AI is very good as a tool for humans. Just like in the early days of computers, everyone's afraid computers are going to take over, but it's a tool for people to use to help them be more efficient. It's not going to replace human beings. Everyone thinks AI is going to. I use AI extensively on a lot of things. But it's not going to replace a human being. It's something that a human being can use to help them to do something. For example, I'm taking course right now, and in terms of looking up some of the work, the background work, I use AI. And if I have the book open, it'll say, "Okay, you have the book open. This chapter. This is what you're trying to extract from that chapter." It's very good. But it's a tool for people to use to help them be more efficient. It's not going to replace human beings. I just don't see how it's possible. You just can't. I don't know that they can program AI to think like a human being in that way, because there's too many. Like, people are fickle about fashion or about a car design, for example. They want the car to look or perform a certain way. Things don't work like that. When's the last time most people here live in New York City area? You ever drive over the BQE in the spring and next thing you know, you got a flat, next thing you know, your axle's shot. You can't know that that's going to happen. And so AI can't know that you're going to drive in the left lane and you can drive over a rut that turns out to be a really deep rut. Next thing you know, your whole thing is shot. AI can't know that's going to happen. It just is something that takes place.
Asa? Hello? Asa, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I know that my friends are going to want to have a chance to speak, and I think that we need to, if that's going to happen, we need to ask that people limit themselves in their comments to maybe a minute or under 2 minutes.
Okay, what I'll do is I'll just limit the conversations if it seems like it's going a little over. So what we'll do right now is just people ask questions about the presentation specifically. So who wants to go next? Just
We've got a couple of people with their hands up.
Hi. I'll go next. I'm David Heitholt, a friend of John's, and for a co-worker from school days when we were teachers. I have heard, so Mustafa Suleiman is a leader for the Microsoft AI, and I heard a critique of him. He was recently saying how it's going to displace a lot of human employers, like in huge numbers. But also the critique was Microsoft is investing huge amounts of money in this AI tech, and other, tech gargantuans, giants are doing the same. And they said that he was signaling to investors that their investment is doing well, that they're going to, reap all the money from that would have been paid to human employees. So that we've got the critique was saying you got to think of what the motivation is of what people are saying about predictions about AI and its relationship to human employment. Like he's trying to signal to investors that they're going to get paid off. It's going to be a good investment. And then the other thing, I heard Jeffrey Hinton saying that when he was asked what do you recommend young people beginning their career, think about doing, he said becoming a plumber. Because the robotics is not there for that. And it seems like, I'm not a plumber, but whenever I look at what it involves, it looks complicated in a physical way. That's all. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
Marilyn, you may need to unmute yourself if you're wanting to speak.
Yeah, I will. I'll do that. Yeah, I can hear myself. Hold on, this is not it.
We can hear you too. Go ahead.
Can I? Okay, I'll take my hearing aid out. Sorry. I just want to say I had 5 points. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You're clear.
Okay. The first one, I'd say it's already too late. And I say this because, and I'll be really fast. During the war against Gaza, the Zionists have an AI weapon called Daddy's Home. And what they do is they have track on every single Hamas member, and they waited and they followed them, and they waited till they were home, and then they bombed them. And all these buildings went down because of this weapon, Daddy's Home. The second one is it's already taking jobs. Many times when I call for help, they say, please be aware we're training HI, or do you want to speak to a person? And they're already replacing jobs, maybe not ours right now, but they're replacing jobs of people who are on the helplines who were already displaced. U.S. workers, they moved the jobs overseas where they were cheaper. So the third thing is in the academies. It's already a big problem that the students are using AI to write their papers. And it's very hard, and it's easy to use AI. AI is very, very useful. You don't have to do a whole lot of research to have some pretty good data. So in the academy, I just think it's out of control in terms of how teachers are going to be able to address this and help students and not embarrass students and make people learn. I don't know where I'm at now, but my feeling is, and I felt this for a long time, even though I don't have a clue how AI works, and that's what I really wanted to understand. I don't understand it, but I wanted to say, and I don't want people to go, oh no, not again. But there is no way that AI is not going to be used to the detriment of humanity if it is not taken out of the hands of the ruling class and the Pentagon. Now, there's a company right now who's saying it doesn't want to work with the Pentagon unless it can guarantee there won't be autonomous weapons and spying on the U.S. population. And the War Department refused to guarantee that. There's another company that's already said, well, I'll do it. I don't need that kind of guarantee. But there was a company trying to stand up against it. And some of you follow the news can know who that was. But we need to have, when the Nazis came to power, there were a number of chances for revolutions in Germany that were blown. And that's how he came to power. It wasn't just because of the unemployment. The unemployment had caused huge social struggles from 1917 and all the way until 1933, really. They still fought, but they got crushed. So we have a chance. If we can we have to make a revolution here so that the masses of the population, the working people, can control this thing that could be either a salvation for humanity or its destruction. And the odds the stakes have never been higher, and the ruling class has well on its way to using it for profits and getting rid of the need for us. And it's terrifying, or it could be beautiful, but it depends on who controls it. So that's my contribution.
As to what Marilyn is talking about, well, people have to really push on
Get
their
everybody to go home.
representatives. People have to push on their representatives to put legislation forward that limits the power of these AI companies. Does anybody agree with that? If anybody
Well,
agrees with it,
can't think of anything else we can do.
yeah, that's the most we can do right now, unless we storm the castle.
Well,
We have to
I'm not.
go ahead, Steve.
I just thinking. I don't think getting rid of Trump would be sufficient for this. But that's. I'm sorry. I'm very pessimistic. Somebody else should talk.
Well, okay, let me try to be a little optimistic then. I'm going to push forward on that argument I was making. If we can push our legislature, no matter if they're Democrats or Republicans, to rein in the AI companies, because they work for us. The legislatures they work for us. The Senate and
That's
the
the
House of Representatives, they work for us. Even though, reality, they work for the people that are paying them a lot of money. But if people push enough, people go into the streets and let their voices be heard that way, things could be limited. We don't have to go down the road of the dystopian future, which we read about and watch in TVs and movies. But we don't have to go down that route. It's in our hands. Okay.
So.
Next question. Any questions for John regarding
the person who's named 282363 had their hand up first.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I'm Jeffrey Solo. I'm sorry the screen doesn't show my name, and my wife Louisa and daughter Julia
You are
is
the
here.
one I referred to, so go ahead.
Julia is the one who talked about working with the visually impaired. My question is really not only is it an issue of trying to rein in corporations who were developing these things and the government, but how do we do this in the context of the global situation? Because no matter what the United States does in trying to put a leash on Meta and Microsoft and Google and Anthropic and AI, the problem is we are in a global competition for these skills, and AI does not, as John said, have a heart. So whoever gets the technology first wins in a zero-sum game, and that's the problem.
Like to say something? Is it Dina?
Okay, who wants to go next?
Dina.
Dina, go ahead, Dina.
I just want to say.
How do I turn off the hand?
Oh, I'll turn it off.
Who wants to go next?
I'm going. I think eventually the government is going to have to pay people not to work. And how do you pay someone? You can pay an engineer at engineer salary, but what about the next generation before they get educated? How do you decide who gets what in money? It's really mind-boggling.
Are you talking about a guaranteed basic income?
Something like that, but it has to be more than that. If you're a doctor, but you're not needed, how do you get paid? And how does the next generation get educated? I don't
I
have.
think,
I don't.
I think we're still going to need human doctors.
Maybe, but much less.
Like Rob was saying, the AI is going to be incorporated, but it's going to be a tool. It's not going to stand in.
Can I
It's
jump
going to
in
be a
for
tool.
1 second on this one?
Go ahead, Rob. Make it
Thank
quick.
you. Very
Make it
quickly.
quick.
So you're having an operation, and it's a robot that's doing the operation, but the robot's being guided by a doctor. Because let's say that the person flinches for a tenth of a second. A doctor's going to know that and know what to do. A robot's not and can cause irreparable damage to the person.
Of course, it can be taught about that. That's
It's the same.
that's not even a very great. It's not a good objection.
Carol's had her hand up for a while.
Yeah, I might agree that it's not, I mean, that a robot might be able to, like operating on my eye, and a robot or an AI thing might be able to tell better than a human when I might be about to flinch. I mean, I've had surgery going back to the 1980s that fixed nearsightedness surgery where it was done kind of by machine. It was amazing. My objection to AI, and I'm an early adapter of technology. I'm intrigued by technology. I like to know the modern stuff. I was part of, well, two of us wired only the second LAN on the Cornell campus. We realized we were each inputting data back in the 1990s, I think it was. And, it was sort of stupid for us each to be doing it. We may as well be able to share the information. So we went out windows and under doorways. So I understand. I want to be sensitive to the fact that I'm at a tech club, a computer club of people who would want to know and use the latest technology. But this one, I'm not. I see the value of AI for scientific research, for medical research, maybe for surgeries like that. But I'm not sure that I see the value, knowing the energy use problems, knowing that the AI searches, I think we learned in the county that I lived in upstate, it's like they're going to take up more energy than the county uses now. Um, I have 9 grandchildren, and we're burning up the planet. So I don't understand why we can't be a little more patient and use a Google, DuckDuckGo, Bing, pick your search bar, search, and have the ability to look through the results ourselves and see the sources. I mean, AI takes all of them and consolidates them into who gave the most frequent responses, which might start to be very wrong, and gives you a warning that it's wrong. I'm not sure who benefits from it. We benefit by saving a few minutes a day, but the tech bros benefit. They're making a lot of money pushing this out to us. And I guess in rich countries, when poor countries don't have enough to eat and we're bombing them, as other people have pointed out. So I'm not sure that I see the worth of jumping on the positive sides of this technology, that it saves us rich white people a lot of money to it's fun to see what the answers are. I'm not sure that I see the point of it, especially under the winner take all capitalist society that we have, by which I'm going to really out myself as a total radical here. So my question is about energy use. Does the presenter really think that it's worth the energy use, or others, to jump on this technology to save ourselves a few minutes, a minute, even if it's a minute and a half, however long it is that we have to sit there and wait for the slower search?
Is that a question for John, Carol?
Well, whoever wants to. It could either be discussion or for John, whichever John wants.
Well, kind of to the point I was trying to make, Carol, to try to be optimistic. It's on all of us. Like you just talked about the tech bros, the oligarchs. They're wanting to use all this energy, use up the environment, use up the water. People in local communities, they're going to be the ones that are going to be pushing back on it. They're going to be the ones going to the town halls, going to the streets with their picket signs, and they're the ones that are going to be pushing back. And eventually, those people, the tech bros, are going to have to listen when the representatives are telling them, "Look, our people don't want it here. They don't want their electric and water bills going at sky high." So eventually, they're going to have to listen.
Right. Does this club ever take a stance on things like this? Sign petitions or join bills saying we should raise it?
No, we don't take political stances or get involved with the petitions itself, but individual people can do what they want to do.
And we can certainly inform people about such things.
Yeah, that's what we have.
For example, protest movements against AI. They do exist. I'm going to try to find a reference to one and come back with it.
Asa?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Since I came a little late and we have so many people here still, is it all right if I just do a very brief intro as a housekeeping announcement?
Okay, hold on 1 second, Rob. Are there any other questions?
Rebecca's got her hand up.
Go ahead, Rebecca.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make a comment that I guess one of the things that really concerns me is that we're coming, like most of us talking, are coming from a place where we had like a more traditional education in the past that was not governed by AI and completely governed by technology. And the concern is really, I guess, that I think about those who are educated now and in the future in a culture that's dominated by AI and technology. If the technology is used by those who are in power to, in some ways, create a cultural revolution where you omit certain things from people's education and you include other things. And the fact that kids, growing up in this could be actually robbed of certain types of education. They could be robbed of the actual conceptual framework to think in certain ways, and also shaped psychologically and intellectually in terms of their sense of themselves as individuals and their sense of themselves, their own personal agency and their sense of responsibility. I think we're seeing this already with some of the large agencies in our government, like the Department of Homeland Security and places like this, where you have a lot of people working, making good incomes, and pretty much justifying doing things that are unconstitutional based on what is being, propagated by algorithms and computers to some degree. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that this is something that shapes the way people behave, and they're not necessarily conscious of it. And it could shape the way that, children are, how they're intellectually, their intellectual development in the future. So that would be just a concern that I want to throw out there, because I think it does have a profound effect on people's consciousness of themselves sometimes, and their lack of consciousness of themselves. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
I'd like to point out that my motivation for creating this talk is that we live in a purportedly free democracy whose civic life depends upon the citizenry being informed enough to engage in debate. when things are hidden from the people about what's going on, there is no civic dimension to the adoption of this technology. So that the biggest problem I see is that the issues and problems, AI itself is a very complex phenomenon with lots of different what in this talk came out as topics, but all of these and more. The person who just spoke, Rebecca, there are now being born a group of schools that use an AI curriculum for 2 hours a day, where the children interact with AI and all of the academic subjects are delivered to them, customized to them individually, and wherever they're having a problem, the AI will have extra resources to help them through it, which to me as an educator, for their, in my humble opinion, failure in school should not be an option, because the school would step in and provide whatever additional help would be needed to get a kid, familiar with the subjects. But what's happening, our public media is so intensely curated by the powerful in our society, and especially the rich. And when Marilyn brought up the dimension that AI, the people who are profiting from AI, other than the higher ups in the hierarchies of the companies and the government, are the investors who are basically powering this transfer of resources into AI and deriving huge profits from it for themselves. And these are the same people who control the communication networks. So that the problem, how can people be organized as citizens to advocate for regulation or policy when they don't have the slightest idea pardon my French, what the fuck is going on? I mean, I'm alarmed, deeply alarmed. And I appreciate Carol bringing up the question of whether our club, a club like ours that represents, in a sense, common people. We're the amateur computer club. My wish would be that we would take on some kind of role in advocating for public education and for advocating for policies and regulations where we see them necessary. With all my respect to the comment about energy consumption, I do think that having a culture or a society that uses a lot of energy I don't think is automatically a society that's unecological. So in other words, the benefits of AI exist. There are parts of our society that do not work. That includes the retired, and what other group? Children. In other words, part of our society's culture and history is the holding up the ideal of working hard in order to make your living and thereby participate in a positive way in the society, blah, blah, blah. AI, the promise that AI wants to make, or the people who are advocating for it, is that work as drudgery is not necessarily necessary to be a substantial part of human life if work, the drudgery part, can be given to machines. Unlike with human slavery, there were immense injustices associated with forcing fellow humans into roles as slaves. The fact that machines are not human and they're not living, they don't have souls, even though we don't know what's going on inside their brains, their circuits. The point is that really the AI, I mean, nobody would want to use this term because it's a tarnished term, but the concept of AI and robotics as servants of humans and liberating human time for other pursuits, whether they are recreational, whether they are educational or cultural. People who retire, who are not workaholics, can have a good time having all their time to themselves and finding productive or personally meaningful things to do. So those are my comments.
John, can I just respond to one point you were talking about with education and children in school?
Oh, can I add one thing to that? It's really fascinating. In these schools, the kids do the AI curriculum for 2 hours a day, which frees the rest of the day for the kids to actually get into voluntary, social, constructive activities with their classmates. So like kids apparently are not necessarily, they don't object to this kind of education. Their academic accomplishments have been sped up by this AI experience, which has freed them to engage in a lot of other activities during the school day that encourage cooperation, forming of plans and judgments and dialogue, a lot of other things going on, art maybe, whatever. So I don't know, Robert, if your response to that was whether that additional information is helpful.
No, what I was going to bring up is something else. Let's say, and here's something that AI just can't do. Let's say, for example, I'm not good in math, okay? I'm not a math person. You're in school, you're taking a subject, and AI sees that you're lacking in math, right? Now, people have brains, and it's a neurological issue. Some people just have deficits in certain learning issues, right? AI cannot replace a child's deficit in learning, whether it's language, math, art, or whatever, right? They just can't. If you're not good at drawing, you're not good at drawing. You just don't have the hand for it. AI can't replace that. It can guide the child, and it can say, okay, fine, if you're not understanding this concept, let's go over it. Why is it that some kids grasp it right away and other kids just don't have the ability? For example, when I was in school, you had to take algebra and geometry and trigonometry and calculus, right? Let's say you couldn't get past algebra, so you didn't go to geometry or trigonometry, where some kids majored in math, they buzzed through everything. Other kids barely made it through algebra. They just couldn't handle the concepts. AI is not going to change that. If the child just can't do it, they can't do it. That's my
Robert,
point.
you have stock in AI?
No, I don't.
I'm surprised.
No, I don't. Because there are limits. AI is very good. I really firmly believe in AI for certain things, but AI can't replace what a person needs or can do. There's certain limitations to AI. I just don't see where it is. Now, Asa.
They can't replace the person.
Asa? Where is he?
Asa's muted at the moment.
I'm right here.
Let's
All right.
take
Is it okay if I change the subject for a second and do my housekeeping announcement?
Okay, hold on to that thought. Is there anybody else who has any other
I would like to
comments?
say
Yeah,
one thing.
we've still got hands up.
This is
Yeah.
Dina.
Go ahead.
I would like, yes. They say that in 5 years, 20% of jobs will be taken over by AI. Not all of them, but let's just take driverless cars and trucks and taxis. How are you going to pay those people who are driverless, who are jobless now and in the future? And how do you
Capitalism doesn't
companies
care.
pay them or the government? Somebody's got to pay them to live and consume. I don't have the answer.
You
The
can't.
oligarchs don't care.
You can't have a driverless car, and I'll tell you the reason why. Because the weather, okay? The AI and driverless cars are dependent upon the cell signal, right? Cell signals are imperfect, and in bad weather, cell signals go bad, and they make mistakes.
That's not the whole of it by any means. You can have driverless cars, you just can't do them the way Musk does them with nothing but cameras for sensors. Since I seem to have the floor for the moment, John, am I correct in the assumption that you were using the free version of ChatGPT when you did that example?
The free version of ChatGPT that I ran into restricts you to 5 inquiries per day. And I knew immediately that I needed to do more than 5 in this day. I mean, I just signed up. It turns out that, so I did subscribe for 1 year for like under $40. It was like the cost was $2.99 a month on average. And I paid for the full year.
The point I'm getting toward is that the paid versions are much more capable than free versions. I signed up for a paid version of Claude the very same day that the Pentagon tried to murder Anthropic. And since the discussion began after your presentation, I put your exact query into Claude Opus 4.6, which is a modern high-speed doohickey. It can be slower because it thinks harder. May I share for a moment? Can I do that?
I hope so.
May I screen share?
I think we have to make
hang on
him
a
a
second.
co-host.
Let me see if it works.
Are you a co-host?
Yes, go ahead.
Here we go. Can you see that?
No.
You don't see anything. Let me come out and let me quit and come back because it may not have picked up.
Here you go.
You're sharing now.
Okay. Oh, now I am. Okay. So over here on the left, if you can see this because I can't.
Yes.
Okay. Over here on the left, this is the same prompt that John was using. And this narration is talking about what skills it's pulling in to use. And here is the graph. And it's a little more plausible than the ones you got from chat. And at the same time, it produced the report, which is over here on the other side.
Fabulous.
And it doesn't include the graph, but it includes some detailed tables, analysis by category, and some further blather. It also cites its sources, although they are, I think, the same as some of the same as were given by ChatGPT.
Right.
So you know, to some degree, you get what you pay for. And people who have only used free versions of these tools really have no idea what they can do now. This point is not original with me. It was brought forward in an essay called "Something Big is Happening," which you can find on the internet. Forgotten the author's name. I think it may have been Schaum.
Steve, can I ask you how much the subscription costs to Anthropic?
I'm doing $20 a month.
Okay.
While I'm here, I have a recommendation to make for those who would like to dig in a little deeper to the nitty gritty. Excellent book. He makes it as painless as possible, and he really does. Make sure you get the second edition, but he really covers the waterfront.
Can I ask a question about your search?
Yeah.
Did it give you any choices of answers from alternative think tanks like the Electronic Frontier Foundation or things like that?
That would be a good way to follow up. All I was doing was using John's exact query, but it makes a lot of sense when using these things to follow up and reiterate and refine your prompts and make it more of a dialogue.
But you have to know to do that. Like people are
Well,
unlearning that there are so many different sources when they don't see the list below, that there's perspectives that are different than the ones that got consolidated
yeah,
to give the summary.
the need to learn remains. It may have changed a bit, but it remains.
Could I say something else, please?
Yes,
We're
Marilyn,
listening.
please.
Yeah, I just had a couple more thoughts I wanted to add to this. I mean, I wanted to go back to what you said about John, about free time. And just if any of you, and I hate to, I know people are going to go, oh no, but if any of you have reread the Communist Manifesto lately, what the Communist Revolution was to be was the working class would take power and they would organize production so there would no longer be eventually a need to work, which would mean you could be a fisher person in the morning and a philosopher in the afternoon and study math in the evening, whatever you wanted to do. But here's the thing. I translate Russian, and a publisher has offered me, would I edit a book that had been translated by AI? And I said, no, I won't, because if AI can translate the languages and solve the math problems and tell us what the weather's going to be and everything, then who's going to want to study French? I mean, what is going to be the motivation? What so much is going to be so much learning that now people have a natural motivation for. You study French because you have an ambition to use the French in some job. But would you study French or Ukrainian or Russian or anything just for the hell of it? I mean, there are people who like to do that, but it's what kind of a society would we have then? What would people be like if if you didn't go to university in order to learn, but all you had to do was know how to ask AI to write your papers? What would society be like? It sounds to me like it'd be a terrifying place, more like Soylent Green. I don't know how many people have seen that movie, but it's just where I don't want to work editing books that are Russian translated by an AI. That's almost like saying, oh yeah, you can make this suit with a machine. Well, I don't know how analogy to make, but it's a real, to me, it's a really profound issue of what humanity would be like after that. So I just wonder what some thoughts might be on that issue.
Yes, Soylent Green was the people.
I know, but it's a dead society.
Yeah.
Yeah, dead might be the word. I mean, what's the track record of this society taking care of people who don't have jobs, who aren't productive? The track record is they get forgotten about and cut off of unemployment after a while. And like, I don't see that we're going to create a society that is not on the track we're on now, that's going to believe in taking care of people and them having enough money to eat based on all the jobs disappearing. But you might have evidence to the contrary.
The writers of the New York Times went on strike, and the solution was that you work with AI, but AI doesn't take over the writer's job. And we're going to have to learn how to do that. There's no easy answer, but we have to work with AI, I think.
We have to limit it.
Yes.
There has to be limitations.
Hey, so now may I please just take 2 minutes?
Go ahead.
All right. Housekeeping announcement I didn't have a chance to make earlier. I apologize. On behalf of the Executive Committee and board members, we'd like to welcome everyone to the March 2026 meeting of the New York Amateur Computer Club. Tonight's topic was the dark side of AI. It was obviously a very engaging topic. a little controversial, but very, very engaging. We are a volunteer-run group and depend on voluntary annual dues to pay the club's expenses. Our dues are $20 a year, which is extremely affordable. If you're already a club member, now is a good time to pay your 2026 dues. And if you're not a club member, we encourage you to make the donation and become a club member. And now I'll throw my 2 cents in. Everybody who's complaining about the way the country is going, well, in November you have elections to elect a new Congress, and depending upon who you decide you want to vote for depends upon what's going to happen. And that's my 2 cents on that one.
Okay. As
Lisa?
Robert said, $20, very inexpensive.
And I'll
Very
even
inexpensive.
on the homepage of our website, naacc.org, is a way to pay the $20, and hopefully we'll have PayPal in the near future. We don't have it yet, but hopefully we'll have PayPal in the near future, so you can pay right off of there. But for right now, you can just send your check in. And in fact, to make it easier, you can actually call your bank and have your bank send a check in on your behalf to the club. So it really makes it a lot easier to do it. I did it myself, and the club got it, and it was a phone call. So instead of having to mail the check in, hoping the post office gets it there in 2 weeks or something like that, it goes in 5 days, and the club gets the money.
Very good. And in the chat, Brendan has shown our mailing list. So you can go ahead and copy that, get information about the club. And now let's go back to our presentation discussion.
I wanted to ask Steve, were you referring, is the thing, Something Big is Happening, is that the book you were referring to?
No, this is the essay by Matt Schumer. I just put a link to it in the chat.
Oh.
And the book I was talking about, I'll put the title and author for that in the chat too. That's Why Machines Learn by Anil Ananthaswamy, which I cannot say 3 times fast.
Could you repeat that name?
I'll try. Anil Ananthaswamy. I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you. I also just, want to say how much I treasure my friends. And really, having a conversation like this, which held diversity as well as conviction, as well as just a lot of thoughtful thoughts. This is I don't get to have be part of conversations that are like this very often. So I just want to express my gratitude.
Very good sentiment there.
Okay. And I want to say something nice about the New York Amateur Computer Club. I find this group really interesting and gentle and smart, and I don't know, just I've enjoyed being in the company of it for a while now. So, and sometimes it gets techie, and sometimes it reaches out with topics that have implications for subjects far afield from strict technology. So I'm a happy member.
That's right. All of your friends should become members.
I don't know whether I like the word "should" very much, but
That's a gentle enticement. I didn't say have to, but they should. Right, Rob? Rob is the hype man. Where you at, Rob?
Stepped away.
Rob left?
He's still on, but he's muted. He may have stepped away.
Okay. All right. Again, John, great presentation. Great discussion, everybody.
Here.
In case anybody wants to share, and Asa, the discussion has been recorded, right?
That's correct.
Yes.
That's great. So, if anybody here wants to share this experience with others, the first thing in the chat with the link will bring you to a copy of the PowerPoint itself and the recording and another document where I'll be putting a lot of the documents that I both pulled together for the presentation today and the ones that get added to it when I complete those unfinished pages.
And if you're on the mailing list, I'm going to send out a notice when John tells me that he's populated that folder.
Yeah.
And of course, John, when Dave sends me the recording, I'll forward it to you immediately.
And I want to thank Dave for being with me at 1 a.m. last night, giving me a chance to increase my chops at handling how PowerPoint presentations can be shared. That was really a generous thing to do and a helpful thing to do. So thanks, Dave.
And one more thing that I wanted to add, we've been saying this at most of the recent meetings. We're always looking for new presenters, and I noticed that there were a lot of people had a lot of thoughtful things to add after today's presentation. So if you want to do a 10-minute presentation or a 15-minute presentation or a 50-minute presentation, talk to me, talk to another board member, and we can work with you and get you into the schedule. We don't tend to schedule more than a month or two ahead, so you're not going to be waiting in queue very long. And don't be shy. We're friendly, as John said.
Great presentation, John.
Hey, John, John, why don't you tell people that the recording will be up on the club website, and how can they get it?
We just said that. John is going to share it on his Google Drive, and I'll send out a notice to everyone on the email list when John has populated that. I'm still working on the archive website, which is going to have handouts and recordings of all the presentations that we have. That's not done yet, but it's going to be done soon. I've been saying it's going to be done soon for months now, but really soon. But we're not going to publish this on the website because the NIAC website doesn't handle archives very well. But John is going to share it, and I will send out the email to everyone when John has shared his materials on Google Drive.
John, I just had one question about the 3 books you recommended. Would you say the third one, if anyone builds it, would you say that would be the one you'd recommend first among the 3?
I think so, yeah. In fact, I remember someone said something about wanting to know more about the technical aspects of this. I think I remember running across a book that was, an author who's well known in the field. It is a rather abstruse, the technology itself is kind of remarkable in its, in the abstractness of it. If I showed you, like in this book, in the, if they build it, we'll all die. They have a chapter that talks a little bit about the nuts and bolts. And frankly, I had a difficult time, really grasping it. Yeah. It's, that technical part is challenging. I have a friend here who is a philosopher. His name is Jeffrey. And I would just be tickled if, like for me, I'm grateful that this club invited me to do this presentation because it allowed me to delve in more deeply to something I'm curious about and share it, which for me is a joyful thing. So, I'd love to I'd be intrigued. The issue of artificial intelligence developing sentience and the whole question of whether robots that can think better than humans might also earn, could it arrive at a point where robots or electronic beings have rights that are analogous to human rights because of their beingness, or their or consciousness, if we want to call it that. I don't know. I mean, Jeffrey may want to take the whole question in another direction entirely, but I would love to invite him to do a little presentation and share some thoughts.
What year was that book published? What's the date that book was written, the one you just held up?
Oh, If Anyone Builds It, Everyone Dies is hot off the presses, I think. Let me just... Oh, one other feature of this book. Yeah, it was published in 2025. But
Okay.
what's really amazing is that at the end, I'll hold this up so you can see, they're so intent on keeping people up to date on their topics that each chapter in the book has a QR code where you can, like, here's the end of chapter called Grown, Not Crafted. And in the corner of the back page of the chapter is a QR code where any news or additions or whatever amplifications of the information on that chapter, the book will live into the future.
It's a great idea.
That's the first time I ever ran into it. These guys are smart. I mean, they're like, artificial intelligence has compiled or pulled together many people who have, like quite a few neurons to their credit.
Thanks for the presentation. It was one of the best NIAC presentations I've attended. Great job.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you.